The ability to speak might not make you intelligent, but we're going to try to prove otherwise. This is the Clashing Sabers podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon, and I'm here with my co-host. He's the man whose reputation scares Rod of the Hutt's massage droids. That's you. Yeah, that's you, buddy. That's you.
As droids, it's gotta be you.
Yeah. You have to give a shout out to the massage droids. Like we've never seen them before. They deserve their moment in the sun, and we appreciate you providing that. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, you'll know that we have a third member of the team joining us. You might have also heard him laughing in the background if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. He is the OG, best known for taming the dragon snake.
Must be Drew. Hello, friends.
Yes, Drew. Hi, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm in my 2-week break for the entire year.
Vacation time.
Yeah, no kidding. This is how I've chosen to spend my time with you fine gentlemen, of course.
Well, we appreciate you hopping on. We've been trying to make this happen for a little bit, and so we're excited to be able to sit down tonight and finally do our review of The Mandalorian and Grogu. So we're going to talk about Mando and Grogu, looking at it through our best and butts format. Of course, if you follow the network, if you're subscribed like you should be, obviously, then you already know we've talked a little bit about Mando and Grogu over on Sith Talk, but we're going to talk about it a little more in a structured format tonight. So thank you guys for hopping on. Thank you for joining our new listeners. Shout out to new listeners like Troy and everybody who's here listening. Glad to have you along the ride. So we like to ask a very important question here. And I need you guys to really lock in when we ask this, Drew, because this is going to kind of, decide the direction this podcast is going to go. What have you been Star Wars lately?
Wow. I can't say I'm surprised by the question. It does tend to come up all the time, which is good. I have been trying to avail myself of some of the audiobooks that are available. I think we had talked a while ago about, the Black Fleet Crisis. Did we talk about that one at all yet? Or has it been that long since I've read those? Everyone's jumping in with great enthusiasm, so I can clearly tell we've talked about this before. I finished all 3 of the Black Fleet Crisis trilogy books. They only had, at least at the time, the abridged editions available.
Drew, we're losing you a little bit there, buddy.
Oh, no.
You are ecstatically... So there we go. We got you back. So you were saying Black Fleet Crisis.
Didn't change a thing. Black Fleet Crisis, probably one we don't need to revisit again in the future, guys. I don't know if that's as a result of the
not a special episode of Don't Burn the Sacred Text.
No, I think you guys are good. I thought I could use the audiobooks as a way of catching up on some of those older stories I've never got around to, but now I'm kind of questioning why I would want to do that.
Me with Legends all the time. I've got probably 80 Legends books that I haven't read, and I go pull one out, and I'm like, why did I do this?
Yeah, it's tough to really make that argument anymore.
Yeah. Well, especially, they are, books do tend to be a product of their time, which is a hard thing. And, books back then were written in a different style and a different voice and everything like that.
Yeah, they had a different goal.
Especially with the quality.
Audience. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. So what I'm about to say is not, it's not apples to apples. It's definitely like apples to potatoes. But the quality of the books that we've gotten lately or just overall in the new canon, I think really surpasses anything that we got in Legends, at least in my experience. Now, does that diminish the importance of Legends in keeping Star Wars alive, or mean that people who like them are wrong or bad or anything like that? Like, absolutely not. It's just, I think the objectively, like the artistic quality of the new books that we've gotten is just significantly better. Even I'm reading The Last Order right now, which was something I didn't really expect to care about, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the book so far.
What is that? Where does that one fall in the timeline? I don't even know that one.
It's after. Well, it's kind of one of those ones where they mix timelines. So it's Finn and Janna. Yeah, Janna. After Rise of Skywalker is like the present day, and then you go back in time and see them as First Order stormtroopers in different events, which is going to all lead to. It's very clear it's going to lead to something that is affecting what's going on in the present day. So it's tying those two characters together. Devore, you've read the book, right? So you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't feel like this was really a spoiler, but it's going to kind of get into the whole First Order steals children thing and stuff, and explore that a little more. So, but just the writing style, the pacing, like everything's just really working for me where I'm like, I'm not mind blown by the book. It's not my favorite book ever, but to go into it with expectations of like, this will be a book that I read. And then to be reading it and going like, I'm actually looking forward to picking it up every day is something that I just haven't experienced a lot in the Legends books that I've read. And that's unfortunate because I'd love to. Yeah.
There's a couple good winners in there. iJedi has always gotten really strong recommendations, and I still love the New Jedi Order. I think I'm one of like 4 or 5 people left that really enjoy those books. So, and not all of those are perfect, but some of those are just fantastic fun. So there's still some gold out there.
Well, and you've got, there's Kenobi, there's Plagueis, there's the Bane trilogy. Like there are some real stalwarts of the Legends canon that really stand out and even stand above a lot of the stuff we've gotten in regular, Disney canon to this day. So it's nothing is objectively true about this, but it is interesting to just sit back and appreciate the intention behind which they're putting into these books.
Devore, you were elbow deep in the X-Wing series last time I think we talked. How have you finished all 10 of those entries?
I did finish those. Yeah.
Congratulations. How's that feel?
Thank you. Oh, I'm glad to have them behind me for the most part. I think it got because I don't think you were here for that conversation or whatever when I talked about it a little bit. Is like for me it gets rough once you get to Wraith. The Wraith Squadron. It's like, what if we did Rogue again, but not as good?
Yes.
The Rogue ones are great. Like, I love the characters, I love the story. Then we get to Wraith, and it doesn't really feel like we're doing this all over again, but none of it is as good as we did it the first 4 times.
Yeah. It is strange that change halfway through, they jump authors and just kind of say, hey, like, let's do this again, but your particular take on it. It's a very odd way of doing it. So I was kind of interested to see how that heel turn would hit you, and it seems like it is the right way to hit you.
Yeah, and then I had a real hard time with the last one because it happens like post Yuzan Vong, and I have not read any of those books. So then we're jumping 30 years, and I'm like, okay, hold on. And it's like that's a hard thing with the Legends because it's like 4 books in one series. Okay, then you hop over to 3 in another. Then you go back to the 2 books from the first series, and so once I got there, I'm like, oh, we have the galaxy's totally different, and there's other things happening, and I don't know the context for any of this.
That's tough, man. That's tough. You'll get through the New Jedi Order one day. All 19 books, I think.
19 books.
I think it's 19 entries.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Devore, what have you been Star Warsing lately? Any other than X-Wing, any new books or anything like that you had?
So you just mentioned the Bane trilogy in passing. I read Path of Destruction not that long ago and really liked it. I was surprised at just how much I enjoyed it. It's a really good book. I just really liked it because so much of the book is about it's the sort of starting journey of how Darth Bane becomes Darth Bane and the origins of the Rule of Two. But it was just really interesting to read the sort of the kind of different the disagreements and the different kind of Sith philosophies and how Bane kind of goes all the way back to a really ancient Sith, and he's like, no, you're all doing it wrong, we got to do it this way. And then of course I got introduced to the infamous, what is it, the
Thought Bomb.
The Thought Bomb. I was
man.
we're doing some Legends shenanigans, the Thought Bomb. I think which I was peripherally aware of, and then I was like, "Oh, this is what it is."
But here's the thing: that concept is silly, right?
Yes.
But the book is so good that it makes you actually feel like you like that, and then you sit back and you're like, "It's actually quite ridiculous."
Yeah.
But
yes.
just, the author does such a good job of it. Anyways, sorry to interrupt. You were saying.
Yeah.
Before.
And then more recently, I read Thrawn Treason, which I didn't like as much as I expected I wouldn't like it.
You didn't like it as much as you expected to not like it?
Yes.
Okay.
So it met your expectations.
Yikes.
Yes. Yeah, I still have the Ascendancy trilogy. I'm like, there's 3 more books I have to read about this guy. I'm like, I don't care.
I hate to tell you, but you don't have to read them. That's the great thing about this game.
That is technically true, but I have challenged myself to get through the canon Thrawn books.
DeVore might be the only person who is under threat to finish those particular books. He might just be. Oh my goodness. My
That's
kids
hilarious.
have gone back and have rewatched. They switched back and forth between Andor and Rebels since they're on summer break, and now they have nothing to do. So every time I walk past them to get to the kitchen, I have to stop for like 15 minutes and figure out what they're watching and enjoy it. Andor is still good, even in like 30-second chunks.
Mhm.
I walked in like 2-3 days ago on Kino Loy's One Way Out speech. Just, oh my gosh, this is so good. Where has this been all my life?
Epic. It's so good. I can't even like wrap my head around how good that show is. The fact that they're watching the 2 best Star Wars shows right now, just credit to your parenting, honestly. Shout out to Drew for that one.
They're in for a bumpy ride when they get to Gorman, man. Like, even I found that intense.
That is next on the agenda. I can't wait for that.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, parenting's easy. You just leave them alone in a room with a Disney Plus account and you're good to go. It's fine,
and then you send them to therapy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Good times. As far as me, I mean, I've been Star Warsing quite a bit. I went on a little trip last week and visited Zach and Mark, who are also on the network. So that was a lot of fun. Got to spend some time with them. Zach and I watched Solo, which he forgot how much he enjoyed that movie. I, of course, it's kind of become one of my Star Wars comfort movies. So I absolutely adore Solo. So that was fun. And then went to go visit Galaxy's Edge again, which was so much fun. Really great time. I do have to say, though, we went to Epic Universe the same day. And Disney needs to step it up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow, okay.
There's things about Epic Universe just in terms of the world building that they do. They've got, animatronic creatures at the How to Train Your Dragon area, just more characters walking around. Just the immersion is, it takes what Galaxy's Edge does and takes it to another level. So, just a great experience, of course, going to Galaxy's Edge and just getting to be in Star Wars. And this was my second time visiting, so there was a lot less pressure on it of like, am I going to like this? Am I going to be able to do everything? It was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to see. And then we kind of already had plans to go to Epic the same day. So once we had done what we felt like we needed to do, we just headed out. I was super excited on Star Tours. We did get the Ahsoka planet. We did get to fly with the Purrgil. So first try, that couldn't have gotten any better for me. So yeah, just super ecstatic about that trip and some of the stuff we talked about and some projects that'll be coming up here on the network. So of course, as always, make sure you guys are subscribed to all our outlets so that you can get everything, because we got some cool stuff coming. And then just continuing to work on the book, man. DeVore and I will continue jumping into that in future episodes. But I've got 3 chapters left. I'm working on the 3rd of those 3 chapters.
Wow.
So really, really excited for you guys to see how this comes together. Really excited to be able to share what I've been working on with you. I think it's a really fun analysis and angle to look at Star Wars through. So I don't want to say too much. I don't want to hype it too much or anything like that. And we talk about expectations on here all the time. Don't want to set unrealistic expectations. But I do think it's something that you guys are going to really enjoy. And I'm looking forward to being able to put out there. So again, that'll be out holiday season time this upcoming year. So something great for you to give your Star Wars friends as a gift or just buy for yourself. And 100% of those proceeds will be going to some form of foundation. As many of you know, there was an original co-author with me on the project, Ken Martin, who unfortunately passed away while we were working on it. So his wife is going to pick a foundation for us to donate everything to. So just excited to do that. And if you guys have any suggestions of foundations we could support, we're always looking for that. So drop those in the comments or send us an email at clashingsabersnetwork@gmail.com. We'll take it into consideration. So, well, guys, do you want to talk about this movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that seemed ecstatic. Let's get into it.
Yes.
All right. We're talking The Mandalorian and Grogu, and we're using our best in butts format. Of course, we did a preview episode of this where we looked at two things we were most looking forward to, two things we were concerned about. So if you want to go back and listen to that first and then come finish this episode to see what we got right, what we got wrong, then feel free to do that. But we're going to look at two things that we didn't like about the movie, thought could have been done better, anything of that nature, and then finish up with two things that we really loved about the movie or we thought they did really well. So first, guys, let's just talk about how many times have you seen the movie in theaters, and has your experience changed at all? Drew, I'll let you go ahead and start because I got a feeling I know the answer to this.
Well, given all of the constraints and everything spinning around our world at the moment, and life in general is extremely busy, I've only been able to see it one time.
Okay.
We made it on the Saturday afternoon of the opening weekend, and packed house. I think just about every seat had been sold out, which was pretty cool. I took me and the three kids, and the wife, she came along too, which was great. So we all had a really good time going. We always like to try and make it like an event. Everybody gets a pick of candy, and we all get the massive buckets of popcorn and stuff like that. We were not able to secure any of the special edition releases of the popcorn buckets. Evidently, this is a whole new thing that like every new movie has to have some kind of weird and strange bucket. I don't understand it. I don't have to. I certainly don't have to have it. But that was kind of my theater experience with it. Has anyone seen it more than one time?
I've only seen it once.
Only
All right.
once?
I am at 3. And yeah. And it will probably be holding there. It was supposed to be 5. Was
What?
the original plan. Because
Are you
part
okay?
of No, I'm not.
What happened to the other two?
Yeah.
Well,
what happened to the first?
I talked so I went to go see it with a friend from work the first time, who's also a Star Wars fan, our band director, and then I was seeing it with a family friend later that weekend, and then Amanda was coming through town, so we went and saw it together.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that was kind of in the plans. Then part of my trip, part of the point of the trip was I'm going to go see Star Wars movies with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured, it's not going to be the most mind-blowing movie, but it'll be a fun theater-going experience to see it with Zach and Mark and everything. And we all kind of came to the consensus that we'd seen it enough. We didn't need to spend the money on that.
Amazing.
And we had other things that were options. So zero regrets about that. Again, as I said on Sith Talk, I don't hate this movie, but it doesn't do anything for me, and that'll come through in what we talk about. But my movie-going experience was probably the polar opposite of yours, Drew, in all 3. There were like between 5 and 20 people in each theater.
Wow.
And mind you, I went and saw Disclosure Day with Mark, and it was a packed house. So I don't think it has anything to do with the movie theaters are dead thing that people try to argue when stuff like this happens. I do think it is a lack of hype around this movie that really affected that. So it's interesting to hear that you had a packed house. So maybe it's not a consistent thing what I saw, but it was consistent where I was at. So and it was the same theater 3 times, and so there was no ebb and flow. So I have a theater literally 2 minutes down the road from me that I ended up going to for all 3 showings, and pretty consistent in there. That it just wasn't a big hit for the community around here. So again, I said this on Sit Talk. I've seen a lot of people online really love this movie, and I've seen a lot of people online that I think have the stance that we're going to end up having on here, that this is a movie that happened. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. For those of you guys who haven't listened before or new to the show, as I mentioned, the butts are going to be two things that we just didn't really vibe with, thought could have been done better, anything of that nature. And then our best is going to be your basic best of list. So let's start with our number 2 butt. And Drew, I'll let you go ahead and kick us off.
Okay. I do want to you had briefly mentioned we had done before the film came out, like kind of a preview session. Once most of the trailers were released and information, we kind of like what we're looking forward to and what we're worried about. And a lot of those themes, I think, are going to repeat themselves here.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Unfortunately, which is kind of when we get to the good things, we'll talk about the good things, of course. So my number 2 butt is, and again, we're gonna put a little asterisk on this because we'll come back to it in a little bit of the same thing. But the movie made me think the rest of the galaxy isn't moving because there's what I call the no cameo problem. Now, again, one of the things we talked about was a concern that there would be this overwhelming addiction of adding in characters that they don't have to have, right? We were kind of concerned about this being an endgame level event where we're going to bring the Mandalorian storyline together. We're going to bring the Book of Boba Fett in and Ahsoka and all these things. We're going to tie them up in this one big, wonderful little package. And that didn't happen. Now, part of that is probably on us as expectation setters, right? We kind of were hoping for something like that. And we got so little of that understanding of how the rest of the galaxy, what was happening in the rest of the galaxy at arguably a very important time in the galaxy. I mean, you're talking about the reemergence of one of the most feared members of the Empire, just pop is back. You'd think that would be a 5-alarm fire in the New Republic there, but evidently they were more focused on their deck of cards than they were anything else. So I was a little concerned of the fact that there wasn't this really anybody from outside of these core characters who appeared in the show, especially given how important they play a role in Mando's life. You know, we know that Luke and Ahsoka played a big role in Grogu's journey, and Bo-Katan and Boba Fett have played such a big role in Mando's journey. And to not use any of like the second tier characters from the show that established all of these guys is a little odd. So I was concerned that the movie didn't want you to realize this was taking part in a larger galaxy, which is kind of opposite of the way all Star Wars movies have operated. It's been a lot about, you know, the one orphan kid who doesn't think he means anything suddenly is the only one who can save the galaxy. So it was missing that element of these characters are playing a role in a larger narrative. Even to the fact of like when he gets the card from Sigourney Weaver to say this is like your next assignment. I don't know that we have a whole lot of implication that this is like the biggest deal in the world right now. Like this is like, are we talking this is the Ace of Spades or is this a 7 of clubs? We don't really know what we're doing here, and there's opportunity for it to integrate into the larger narrative, and they specifically did not do that.
Yeah.
Now, there's elements of that I do want to talk about later on, but it really stood out to the whole film. I'm looking around going, do I know any of these characters? Like, should I know any of these characters?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the most excited I got was like there was a Y-wing, and I was really excited. By the way, that was a lot of fun. But that's kind of like the summary of my butt number 2. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think there's an element where with this movie, with the way that they told the story, they very clearly went into it with the goal of we want to tell a story that can appeal to the widest audience possible, right? With the least amount possible that like we can assume you know about Star Wars. We're going to assume you know about Star Wars so you can go and enjoy this movie.
That's a
and
good
so
point.
Like they aim for the breadth, and then I think in that process sacrifice a little bit of that depth that you're talking about in terms of that connective in terms of that connective tissue to like other characters or the larger stuff in the world, because then it's like, well, if you make that connective tissue, then all of a sudden you start assuming they've watched this show and that season and whatever, and we don't want to do that because we want to get as many butts and seats as possible. So I think they in terms of that depth and breadth versus breadth trade-off, they went in one very clear direction of breadth over depth,
which really hurt the movie overall.
I think it does hurt the movie overall.
It
We're
lacks.
Talk about that a little bit
for sure.
Yeah.
So before you want to go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say off that point, if they'd gone on the other direction and it was too inside baseball, then that would have introduced its own set of problems. But I do think there's a kind of like magic middle. There's some kind of Goldilocks in between like that version and then the version we got.
Yeah.
Well, and it doesn't feel like they were interested in finding that. You know what I mean? They knew what they wanted to do with this movie, and they did it.
I mean, we have complained on this very show about other things that have required you to have done so much before you. And that really is painful. It's almost, I think it's worse to feel left out because you don't know what's going on versus feel like you're missing out because you already know all three of the characters that are important in this story. So I think if I was going to strike that particular balance, I might strike it in the same fashion, maybe not as close to, that extreme of the scale as was done here. Like, we'll talk about, I'm sure, a couple different things, so I don't want to go too far. So that may be where to put a pin in that one for now.
Yeah. We'll for sure get into that more, but just off of that, I think we can look at High Republic and see, like, did not reading everything stop people from reading the High Republic? That's kind of where I come to. But we'll come back to that in just a little bit.
Tough analogy. Let me make a note of that. Hang on.
Devore, what do you want to go with for your number 2?
So for my butt number 2, the pacing in this movie is all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the action scenes, I think, for the most part, particularly in the sort of like front half of the movie, I think are well paced enough. Like, especially you get that opening bit with the AT-ATs on the snow planet. I think that really like gets you going, and like it sort of gets you in the mood. You start getting excited. Then it's like you get out of those, and it's like you're on the highway, and we just pull the parking brake. Like anytime we get to those scenes where it's like we're walking around like on the street or through a hall or through a building, or people are talking, it's like everyone took an Ambien. Like the energy is way low.
Yes.
And then we get into action, and then we rev it back up again. But then we go back, and then even like by the end though, even some of the action starts to like it starts to lose a little bit of that momentum. Like I got a lot of monster fatigue in the back half of the movie, where it does feel like, okay, like we need some action. Give me another monster. Like find another in the prop shop. Give me another monster. Like, and I'm like, okay, we got the dragon snake, and then we got like these other guys. Like, okay. So yeah, I think it's just like it's all over the place. Like it's up, it's down. Like it doesn't really have that like I always like for Star Wars, like the gold standard I always go to is like Force Awakens, right? Where it's like that movie starts and it's like you're just on cruise control the entire movie. You're just like going and going. Like the only part is like only like when you get to the Rathars, is a little bit of that gas let up. But like even when stuff isn't blowing up on screen, even when you are just like in Maz's castle and people are talking, or you're on the Falcon and people are, you're still feeling that sort of like propulsive, things are moving forward and you're going. And it's like in this movie, it's like it's really like up and down in terms of that. Like there are times where it's like it's going and you're pumped and you're in it, and then you just like really like the brakes grind sometimes, especially like when people are just like, again, they're sitting across the table and talking, or like we're walking through some set piece, and it's like, my God, like what just happened? Like why are we going so slow? So yeah, it's uneven in that way.
Oh. It falls into the same like Phantom Menace problem I have of like anytime there are background characters on screen, they are clearly not given any kind of direction because they just sit there. Like I think of like the council meeting at the very beginning in the cold open, like there's the conversation between the guy behind the desk and one guy at the table, and everybody else just does this where they look left and they follow the speaker and they don't contribute, they don't react, they don't do anything. I'm like, can somebody play? Like it's the Jedi Council sequence, it's all over again. But at least like Yarl Poof's head would bob back and forth. It's like, something to watch. like these characters don't even know they're being on screen at the same time. So
they don't even know they're alive. That's the problem.
They don't know that they're sentient. It's really hard to deal with, guys. Come on.
Ugh. I mean, that pretty much sums up my number 2. I mean, I phrased it as like the episodic nature causes the middle portion of the movie to really lull. But I think we're really saying the same thing in different ways. Of you just hit the brakes so hard that like the first act, super fun. Love the AT-AT stuff. Like love the action there. Some of the CGI left something to be desired, but I'm not gonna write to Lucasfilm about that. And then the end part, with the fight with Embo. We never have to talk about Hutts or see Hutts fighting again. We can just go ahead and nix that in the bud. Ooh. But I'll give him a pass on that because the rest of it around it is good. But by then you're so tired of being at that movie. Like I literally the last time I went and saw it, I thought if they had just cut this dragon snake stuff out completely the first time, I would have been fine. That's 30 minutes that like I needed you to just show me that there's a dragon snake down there and then move on with our lives. If we're going to come back to it. Like it reminds me of, how The Last Jedi has like so many false endings where it's like, you feel like this is the end, then you feel like this is the end. And then Luke shows up but it does something to motivate you to keep going. Like you feel defeated but you want to keep pushing because it's Star Wars. There's gotta be hope. There's gotta be, like you don't want to give up on it. And that's kind of the point of that movie, is to never give up on the hope. And this movie just doesn't do that for me. It literally makes me like I don't want to say it makes me want to get out of the theater because it's Star Wars, but it doesn't motivate me to like stay seated in that middle portion. I'm like, if I have to go to the bathroom or go get a drink or whatever, I'm not going to miss anything. And that's really disappointing because the middle acts of this, movies are so vitally important. But it really feels like they didn't know how to build that connective tissue between the beginning and the end. They knew like where they were starting, where they were going. They didn't really know the story they were telling in the middle there. And that really started to show the longer that went on.
What do you think are kind of the boundaries of that? Like, where does it lose you versus where do you click back in, do you think? Because I have like an idea in my mind, but I want to see if it's close to where you're at.
I honestly think that first conversation with Rada the Hutt is way too long.
When he's in the jail cell, or
when he's in the jail cell, it drags on quite a bit, especially with the cute Grogu stuff and everything. And then it goes until probably the fight with Embo. Like it's a majority of the movie for me. Maybe a little earlier than that, but
so like all of the space Chicago sequences.
Nope, I'm good.
All right, fair enough.
Straight up.
I think I really checked out after like the second visit to Nal Hutta, like with the snake fight and the the 35 minutes is what it felt like of Grogu fixing Din Djarin, his poison sequence. I was like, what is happening in this movie? It's interesting. All the things you're saying.
We'll come back to that. I disagree with that, but we'll come back to it.
Talk about
no, okay. All the things you're describing, I was feeling, but I really thought it was just because of the fact that I'm like so tired all the time anyway.
No,
I was
the movie
concerned,
is exhausting.
I know it's not a great thing to say, but man, I really do appreciate hearing you say that because it makes me feel like, okay, I didn't really miss like that. Like that wasn't just a my poor experience. Because most of my kids really liked it. They had such a good time. They thought the action was great. They loved, the different sequences and everything like that. Had a really good time. Me during that middle, like 45 minutes to 2 hours, I was like trying not to check my phone. I'm not entirely sure I was awake the whole time. Guys,
legit, guys, I was really falling asleep the first time. I was legitimately falling asleep the first time. But it's interesting because like you and I differ in like you tend to be more like critical and I tend to be more optimistic. Like that's just the way our lens. Like you see depth that I sometimes miss because I'm just like I just want to enjoy Star Wars, right? Yeah. And so the fact that we have such different perspectives as a baseline, but we come to this same perspective here, kind of tells me it's kind of it's really it's It's not saying that either of our perspectives is better or worse on the norm. It's just we usually differ so drastically that to be so on par with this, I think really speaks to the truth of it.
I can't wait to see Devore's full-throated defense of this film as if it is Rise of Skywalker Part 2. I just can't wait. I toyed with suggesting we play a game, the three of us, where we have to predict each other's scores for it. So, Brandon, you and I would team up to say what would Devore score for this film. The two of you would have to give my score, and then Devore and I would give Brandon's score for this. But I don't think there's a lot of differentiation.
No, not at all. All right, well, let's get into our number ones. And Drew, I'll send it back to you. What do you think is the worst thing about this movie?
The worst thing about this film is I was right a couple months ago. Dave Filoni is done. Has no new ideas to contribute. And I think, Devore, you already spoiled it for me. The number one thing that bothered me the most in this is that there is monster fight after monster fight after monster fight. Brandon, you and I talked about the problem with monster fights in Mandalorian Season 2. About how Star Wars has this problem of just relying on big space monsters in order to create stakes and danger. And I'm done. I'm over it. It's not important. It's not impressive anymore. Now, the saving grace to this particular one was the Jajaric monsters being one of the fights. I thought was fun, but it only makes a difference if you remember a holotable from 1977. So I was entertaining myself while it was happening, going, do I remember the names of all of these monsters since I played the card game in the 90s? And yeah, I do remember most of them, which is sad.
I'm so glad you're using your brain space for that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, who doesn't love the Kalor slug? Come on, guys. I was concerned that the Dave Filoni of it all was going to be like this make or break moment of either give us something fantastic where we have this important epic that's going to really do something special, versus something that was going to be more in line of, we've seen a lot of these beats before. This ended up being 3 episodes of the show stitched together. It seemed like this was a plot line from season 2 that had just been shelved in lieu of something else. There wasn't anything that made this particularly theater worthy. Like, we spent $300 million in order to make a film that doesn't do anything in the grandest of schemes. And again, I'm not saying anything had to do that. Like, it's not a requirement that this be like a pivotal point in the in-universe timeline. But I think that if you had to pick between something super important and pivotal in the timeline versus a Monster of the Week battle, why would you choose Monster of the Week and try and sell 10 million tickets? I do not understand this. I don't understand the importance. I don't understand the impact. I don't understand the story here. The amount of people who are going to be concerned with the vacuum of power created by the deaths of the twins is like 7 or 8 people across the literal planet. I haven't done a lot of like online reading into what people's opinions of this are. One, because I knew we were going to try and have this conversation, and I didn't really want that to be an influence there. But I saw somebody who used that and said, "Oh, I can't wait to see what they do with the death of the twins." And I was like, "Are you out of your mind? This will never come up again. It is not an important thing." And in the universe where so much is happening at the moment, they went after like the Beagle brothers. Like, that's the plot line that they chose to go with and spend this much money and try and get us in. And then when we get there, it's just monster fights over and over and over. I was shocked at that level of story. I do not understand it. And maybe there's something in there that we can glean and something we can learn from. But man, you're going to be digging. Brandon, there wasn't a single cave. And I'm so sorry there wasn't a single cave for you to like. Really
there was no cave.
With.
There was barely any water.
Yeah.
Doesn't have what I come to Star Wars for.
No, I know. It's crazy. It was wild. And I'm concerned for the voices that are gonna have the authority and power to tell these kinds of stories in the future, and I hope that we don't stick too closely to this formula again. Man,
For
it
sure.
sounds harsh, and I don't really want it to be, because I will watch this again when it comes out on home video and make sure I have a copy of it. But this is going to go way down in the ones I picked to watch on purpose after that.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I mean, that leads right into mine too. Which is just like, this movie lacks theme and character development, which I think is kind of what you're saying. Like, it's just about action set pieces. It's about the monster of the week. It lacks any kind of heart. And that's what I come to Star Wars for. Is the heart, is the themes. I harp on them all the time. Whether it's the metaphors of caves and water or something else. Like, there's always something that's on my mind there. And I try, so I watch it the first time, second time, and usually after that, I'll take a notebook and just jot my thoughts down as things are going along. I mean, I had a reporter's notebook, guys, and even scribbling in the dark, like, I filled a page, and that's like spaced out, large print. I wasn't motivated by the themes of this movie. And I think that they put them in there in certain sentences and lines, but they didn't actually explore them, they explored them more in the trailers. So I 100% feel where you're coming from, because, there's arguments to be made that, Rada goes through an arc, and that's fair. And some people are saying Grogu goes through an arc. I don't know if it's an arc as much as it is just a little bit of growth and development and maturing. But I don't know what they were trying to teach us with this movie, other than Star Wars cool, Star Wars monster, watch Star Wars, and that's just like, I always harp on how Star Wars never talks down to its audience. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of felt like this movie talked down a little bit. It said, like, you're not here for the mythology. You're here for the monsters. You're here for the bang, bang, pew, pew. And I'm just not. And other people are. And there's people who are being turned off by what I say right now. And I get that. And I honestly, I respect that we come to Star Wars for different things. And that's what makes art beautiful. But you'd really have to, talk me off a ledge to get that across.
Yeah, and the beauty of previous films has been the ability to layer all of the things that you're talking about together at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. It's the ability to weave a theme in with the action set pieces. It's to build, like, the ability to reach into a very personal experience and make it a universal approach. And that simply doesn't exist.
Yeah, Devore, hop in here. What are you thinking for your thoughts here and your number one?
Well, my number one is actually pretty much what you were talking about, but in slightly different words, which is that I don't think this movie has very interesting things to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and like you said, I think both on the level of theme and on the level of character. Like, in terms of the theme, like you said, like, it gestures to stuff around, like, fatherhood and legacy and sort of being your own person, but doesn't really develop those in any kind of interesting ways. And that sort of ties in with its characters, its characters in the way that it uses its characters. So I'll give a couple examples to that end. So, like, if you think about, like, the Rada of it all, like, he is there, and the way that he's used, like, he is meant to draw a connection with Grogu, right? They are meant to be put side by side. And, like, you have Rada there talking about, like, I'm my own guy, I'm not my father, et cetera, et cetera. And then you think about that sort of, but then you think about, like, the thematic level, and it's like, okay, is the story trying to say that Grogu is like Rada in that he is also not his father? Or is it trying to say he's different, like, he's different from Rada, and that he is following the path of his father? The movie doesn't really answer that. Like, is this a study in similarities or contrasts?
Normally, and it doesn't ask you to think about it either. That's the thing.
Yeah. So it's like, it's putting these characters side by side, but doesn't actually give you a sort of lens to think about, like, are these parallel characters? Are we meant to think of them as a study in contrast? There's nothing really there in that element. So, like, that's one example of that. Another example is you think about one of the antagonists. So you think about Janu Coin, right? Why is he the ace of stakes? The movie does not tell us this, right? She pulls out the card.
Guy. Okay, I was like,
yeah,
who is this again?
Yeah, she pulls out the card out of the deck and tells Mando, like, you got to find this guy. She gives him this designation, so clearly he is important. Why is he important? The movie does not say. And the movie neither says it from like a telling way, nor does it from a showing way show you like why is he like the number one guy in this deck of cards. There's nothing he does that's particularly like, oh, he's like so much worse than like any other run-of-the-mill Imperial warlord who's like trying to score a buck, on the outer rim. And yet we are like, it is set up such that we're thinking, okay, he is a high value. He is so important. Like, we got to go to the twins because they are the only ones who can tell us where he is. So we got to get to him. But what's the ticking clock? What's the urgency? There's none, essentially, from what I can tell. And then there's, of course, the Din Djarin of it all. Din Djarin, I think this happens in season 3, I would argue. But I think it fully happens here. Din Djarin is not a character anymore. Din Djarin is a plot device. He is a means by which things happen in the story, right? You get to the beginning of season 3, and you have the redemption arc. He goes in the water and all of that. He's back with the Children of the Watch, and I would argue from the rest of that season onward and then into this movie, he's just kind of there. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't really have a character. He doesn't really have motivations. Like, why is he working with the New Republic? Does he really believe in the cause of, democracy and any of that? What is he beyond I am Grogu's dad? He's not. Like that is the alpha and omega of his character at this point. Mm-hmm. Like, there is nothing, there's no further depth. There's no motivations beyond that. There's no real fears, things he's after, things he's worried about, anything. Like, he's basically it's people going up to him and be like, Mando, you go do this. And that's how we get to the next point in the story. Like, he is such a thin character that I'm just not interested in him anymore. I don't care about Din Djarin because I don't think the story at this point is giving me reason to care about Din Djarin. He's not doing interesting things with him. He's not evolving. He as a person is not going in any interesting directions. He's just kind of there. He's really there to facilitate things for other people or for the story, as opposed to he himself is being affected by what's happening around him.
Yeah, and that's why he should have died.
Yes.
Wow.
Should have died in this movie. Because they clearly have nothing else of interest to do with him.
I was wondering, is that where we're going, in the whole poison sequence? Is that what we're gonna do? And I was like, are they really gonna kill this guy off?
It would have been so much more interesting if it did.
For you and me, the three of us, I agree with you. We would have been like, okay, this is pushing in characters forward. This is evolving. Grogu has to step up and figure out whether or not he can survive on his own. I thought that's what that whole sequence was trying to prove. Turns out not so much.
Well,
what do I know?
It even in that it tries to say, the old take care of the young take care of the old, this is the way. And it's okay, but is that the theme of this movie?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
But Grogu is older than him.
Right. Yeah. So,
what are we talking about? I did not understand
crazy.
Any of that attempt to mythologize the parenthood analogy. It's no, none of this is how it works. Okay, stop. He's either a baby or he's, at this point, what, 60 years old, I think?
55, 60, something like that,
Somewhere in there, it's what are we defining as old and young? What are we doing here?
Yeah, he is either a baby or possibly his pet, based on the number of times he tells him to heal. He's a dog.
Oh, yeah.
Now, in fairness, I have done that to my kids many a time, okay? You do treat them as a pet for the first couple years.
That was another thing that happens multiple times. You're okay, what is what's the dynamic?
What is the relationship
here? Yeah.
What is happening? It is very complicated because then you have moments like that of extreme infantilism, but then you have Grogu is actively trying to murder folks at the same time. So balancing those two things is tough. Are we giving him a lightsaber or are we not giving him a lightsaber? I don't know what they're going to do with this character from here on out, because if in these 55 to 60 years, like you said, Brandon, he hasn't aged enough to the point where he can actively participate in the violence that the stories require. But what else is he gonna do? Like, where are we going? What do we set up for as a result of this film?
Yeah, like we are.
What is the message?
We are almost 7 our time, 7 years out from when we first got the Mandalorian,
right?
And he hasn't talked yet. He has not said a word.
Mm-hmm.
He is still making baby noises.
And we presume roughly that each season of the show is roughly
a year,
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure we're all on the same kind of page.
Yeah.
So for 3 or 4 years now, what is the scale of growth for someone of Yoda's species? No one seems to know. There are no rules. And again, we know that Yoda doesn't play by the rules in the Star Wars universe to begin with. That's fine. But if you're going to add these extra characters, it takes away from what makes the original one so special, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yoda's basically, an imp, a fairy, this mythological creature that doesn't have to play by the rules that the rest of the human characters have to. Until you make a clone of it. Now we have questions. How long does Grogu spend in this toddler phase? 60 years? 100 years? 200 years? Did Yoda die young? It has lost me completely.
Yeah. Supposedly by the original trilogy, sort of timestamps we get, supposedly Yoda is training Jedi at the age of 100.
That's what.
Yeah.
So
it's
40
years.
Yeah. So
he has to be a master.
He's got a lot of work to do. He's got to master basic.
Yeah. Well, that actually leads kind of into my best. So if you guys are ready, we can kind of transition.
Change that gear.
Because I do think they did, something to make him more than just a prop, which they kind of started in season 3, and they kind of followed through here. Now, is he advancing in the way we need him to advance? Does it make a lot of sense, compared to the rest of the species? All that stuff you said is valid. But having this scene of the Grogu world stuff, I thought really added some character to the movies. That was a scene with, it went too long, but it had some heart to it. And I the humor was what it was, but just getting to see him have some autonomy towards, oh no, I'm going to go save dad. I'm going to make these decisions. He actually made decisions for the first time. And going back and watching season 3 of Mando, I don't remember any decisions that he made. Everything's happening because of Din. And things here happen in accordance with Din, but they don't happen because of Din. He's going to save him on his own accord. He makes those decisions. So I just really appreciated that we at least tried to do something. Now, the argument that you guys are making, again, is valid. Did they do enough there? Did they do it the right way? Are we in the right track? But I went into this movie with kind of my heart saying, okay, are they going to try to set this up for future stories? And that was the one part I was like, okay, they're setting that up for future stories, and that really gave me, I don't want to say hope because this movie doesn't give me any hope, but just being straight up. Yeah. But if they're going to pick something from this movie to pick up on, I think that's something that they can pick up on. I think also they're just finding different ways to use the puppet that is a little more believable. So I enjoyed that part relative to the rest of the movie. And I appreciated that they were at least trying to do something with Grogu.
I can appreciate your position on that. I found myself very tired of the puppet, which is hard because of how difficult it was in the prequel trilogy when Yoda made the jump from a physical puppet to a digital character, and now he's flipping and jumping and swinging lightsabers and stuff. It was a very very difficult transition for some of us to handle. But I feel like they're hitting the limitations. Just seeing him walk across the table when they're in the rebel outpost, not rebel anymore, sorry, the Republic outpost. Just seeing it, all I can see in my mind's eye is the sticks and the strings kind of holding him together, and it's when are we going to make that transition for this character to actually let them live a little bit? Like,
yeah, it's got to happen at some point.
Like you're talking about, you could see that kind of be the jumping off point for new stories. Like, are we talking about the adventures of baby Grogu forever? Like, is that there's a change in the age of the character where they leave this toddler phase behind, they develop a voice and the communication, and they can actually walk and talk and participate in the society around them. That's gonna lose anybody who fell in love with the Baby Yoda character, because it's not the same.
Yeah,
I don't disagree at all.
So I worry if the next announcement was like the Adventures of Grogu season 1, like that's not gonna make the watch list.
I think it's more, for me, it's just more of like they didn't really do anything with other characters, so like just seeing them do anything with a character is, you know, again, I'm picking out of the flies in the horse trap. So you know, really trying to find anything I can here. Just being straight up.
I think you dislike this movie more than I did, which is funny to me.
Probably. I've sat through it 3 times.
Okay, first off, that's your fault. That ain't nobody's fault.
No, for sure. For sure. I'm not arguing that.
Nobody said buy this ticket or I'm going to, like, I don't know, hurt your family, I guess. So, hey, you guys remember that time, like 40 minutes ago, when we said it was a bad thing that there were no cameos in this movie? My number 2 best is that there weren't that many cameos in this.
Oh, Drew, always making up the rules.
Yeah, exactly. What are rules for? I was thinking about this because I wasn't paying attention to the film at all. The lack of outside characters actually can be a positive in this film, in that it allows you to really focus on what's going on. You don't have to spend the time being worried about, now wait a minute, who was that walked, you know, well, this guy next to me jumped up and down because he saw somebody walk in the background. What have I clearly missed? And to the breadth and depth conversation, Devore is an excellent point, and I think you're right. But I think in this particular film, the more distractions to the thin story that they had would have derailed it so much worse. If Ahsoka had been in this movie, it wouldn't be the Mandalorian and Grogu anymore. It'd have been the Ahsoka.
It would be the Ahsoka.
Yeah.
If I don't know why Hera wasn't in this movie, Hera and Ezra, but it did prevent it from becoming Rebels the motion picture.
Yeah.
So while there is great opportunity for all of these side characters who are in live action to play a role, he could have, you know, Din could have called Boba Fett for help, or Bo-Katan and a fleet of Mandalorians could have come and rescued him from Nal Hutta. There's so much opportunity, and the restraint shown to refuse that path is an interesting choice to me. Maybe 1 or 2 would have done it to give us a little bit more balance, because again, I do feel like it aired way down that wrong end of the spectrum to say, let's exclude everyone except, I guess, Zeb, for some reason, is the one character we decided to keep. Which is kind of a wild decision.
Yeah.
There were, I think, several characters that would have made perfectly acceptable cameo appearances, and then to do things like have Sigourney Weaver in a movie and use her for about 45 seconds is criminal. But again, I think that keeping the cast limited to what they did does help kind of keep the focus on the 2 characters whose names grace the marquee, right? That's what you're here to see, is these 2 characters and their particular relationship. So to have, you know, newly minted Commander Wedge Antilles show up and be the one who says, here's who we need you to go get, which would have made sense given the story, doesn't really make sense. So the only asterisk to this particular entry is Rod of the Hutt. Guys, do we think this was a mistake to make this character in live action, or do we feel good about it? And Jeremy Allen White's basically calling from a phone booth for his particular performance of this character. Where do you guys fall on the Hutt child? And
Devore?
The fact that he refers to himself, I want to be my own man, not once but twice, is like, you're a Hutt, not a human. and I think I might be the only one who cares about this, but you did it twice, and that means I get to talk about it a little bit.
Devor, what are your thoughts?
Rada's actually my number 2.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
I take nothing back.
Fair. I think it worked better than it had any right to. Because like I remember when the first rumors dropped that after we got the Mandalorian movie announced, like, okay, Rada the Hutt's gonna be this, and all of us were like sure, like, yeah, Rada the Hutt's, they're gonna do live action Rada. Oh, he's gonna be Jack, like, yeah, sure, like, whatever. It was so preposterous that like
it remains.
Yes, like it's still wild that we got Rada the Hutt live action on the big screen. Like it's still like bananas. And I talked in the butts about like how some of the things with Rada don't work in terms of the like, you know, as you talk about, like he throws out the stuff about like I'm my own man and all of that, but then like thematically the movie doesn't really explore that super well. But like I will go back to the thesis of my best number 2 is like it worked better than it had the right to. Like I still enjoy the moment where he like in that first scene, like when they first meet him in the jail cell, like, and Grogu is kind of then wants to go to him, and he just has that line where he's like, "I'm not my father," and like as a sort of like encouraging to come, like that kind of worked for me. Like it kind of worked there. As just sort of a reminder, like, oh yeah, Jabba was this just like very like noxious, terrible person, and here's this guy who's like doing his best and like trying to kind of chart his own path and doesn't want to become another like scumbag criminal gangster. Like he doesn't want to follow in that. And then like even the parts where like they're playing on the beach, I think that like that works. And so like I mean like. Is it a little weird to think about like Rada is now like part of the New Republic and he's gonna be, you know, like all of that, like that's yes,
and he has a uniform,
like he's gonna have a uniform and all of that, like yeah. But again, I think like for as ridiculous as the premise of live action Jack Rada the Hutt voiced by Jeremy Allen White is, if you just look at those,
that's a fever
English
dream of
words,
a sentence,
and then what you get is actually fairly decent.
Okay.
I think it works mostly.
The crazy thing is, Drew, I second all of that. Yeah. The only thing that was missing was actually seeing him in the New Republic outfit and him just going full like Tommy boy, and he's just like fat Hutt in a little coat. If we had that, the movie would have been in my top 10.
Very
my top 5 maybe.
Point.
Yeah. But other than that, I enjoyed the Rada the Hutt stuff.
Really?
So
okay, all right.
Again, relative to the rest of the movie, is it something that I'm going to go, hey, I'm going to put this movie on because I want to watch Jack Hutt? Like, no. But when I'm watching it, am I going to say like, hey, you know, this is the one of the highlights of the movie? I mean, yeah, it probably would be, you know, my 3 or 4 in this movie. So it did a decent job.
Fair enough.
Well, that leads us to our number 1, and we'll kind of wrap it up and land this ship. And I don't really have much to say about my number 1 because I'm no music expert, but I just really freaking love the soundtracks and the score to this movie. It is banger after banger after banger. Ludwig Göransson does not miss on any of these songs.
Academy Award-winning composer, yeah.
I mean, yeah, you would expect nothing less. But I listen to this all the time. Listen to it when I'm writing. You know, you could listen to it as a workout album. It really hits. And again, I don't have much more to say than that because I'm not a musical expert. I just know I really enjoyed listening to it. I really enjoyed that he said, you know, hey, I've got my style, and even though we're going to the theater, I'm not going to try to do somebody else's style. I'm not going to try to be John Williams. I'm not going to try to be Michael Giacchino or anybody else. I'm going to be me. And not only am I going to be me, I'm going to be me in the highest key possible. You know, he really did that, and I just have an appreciation for that. So
that's good. Yeah, I think that approach of like I'm going to do what I did for the show and take it with me, like all the good things from it, is kind of the mentality behind a lot of it. You know, cold open, title card, story structure. It was very much like, not to denigrate your point, but like 3 episodes stitched together. And the music has indeed always been a highlight of the show. That main
for sure
theme is just,
Is
I believe it's what the kids would call fire. Yeah, there you go. See?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does it still slap? Is that a thing we say?
I mean, I'm pretty sure I've said it in class, and I'm pretty sure some eye rolls have happened. Right, cool. But you know, we are the coolest Star Wars podcast on the internet. So
you heard it here first.
Anything we say is gonna be hip to the kids.
It's so wizard.
So wizard.
So wizard. I think my number one is kind of in line with that in a sense, in that I kind of enjoyed Din Djarin more in this than I have in a while. And I think it. Wow. Okay. Sure.
I just didn't expect that to be your number one.
Brandon had a visceral reaction.
Literally.
Especially for like the cold open. I really feel like it was the first attempt to recapture the brutality from his first season of the show. How we were all kind of taken aback at his level of direct violence. Right. We think about, like, it's been a while since I've seen season 1, and I'm probably sure you guys have seen it more recently, but I think back to like the end of the season had like that fight in the bar in the cantina, but then all the Imperials come in and he's murdering folks. And even earlier on when he's trying to defend Grogu, we don't know that's Grogu's name yet, the child, from, you know, the IG-11 droid and all the other bounty hunters who are after the same prize. It felt very grounded and realistic and brutal is kind of the word I keep coming back to. And so we haven't really seen that very often, and it may just be an issue of comparison because there's so much more that happens in the show, and the violence has spread so wide and so far that seeing him kind of take down, you know, Imperial Walker after Walker after Walker was kind of refreshing to go back and say, oh yes, this is a man to be feared. Now, I'm not entirely sure that lasts the entire length of the film, but I think it's
definitely present.
Yeah, I think it's a nice reminder to say, this is a guy who is very comfortable getting his hands dirty, and I think that has implications, especially for how we consider the relationship with Grogu, a literal toddler, right? A bring your child to work day is not such a great thing when your work is murder and death to people. And I think that it opens up an avenue for investigation and understanding. It's just that the film wasn't interested in having that particular conversation. Like, no one has ever said, hey, are you sure you want to bring your kid along for this unbelievably dangerous adventure? And
yeah, like, right.
Absolutely. And the Republic's like, that sounds like a great bonding experience. Let's give you a brand new starship. Well, it looks exactly like your old starship for some reason. I don't know. It's like you had said, Brandon, you're looking for diamonds on the beach, and you're going to find Band-Aids more than you find diamonds. So I enjoyed him as a character. Maybe he doesn't grow and evolve. I don't think he has to grow and evolve anymore, Devore. I think he's earned his stripes. I think he's reaching that like tired old man level instead. Is like, can I just cash my paycheck and raise my kid in peace, please? And I have respect for that. As the resident old man in the gang, I get that. I feel that in my heart and my bones. So that's kind of my favorite part. Was I like seeing him in weird situations, just less monster situations.
Yeah, the number of people he sets on fire in this movie is very high.
It's much higher number than it used to be, and I'm okay with that. Like,
yeah.
If you were a bounty hunter and you had an entire, you know, suit of armor with 17 different weapons, wouldn't you use your flamethrower all the time? I would.
He does love it. He loves that flamethrower. That's
super
for damn
effective.
Sure. Yeah, no, 0% fail rate.
Especially on Nal Hutta, where it turns out everything burns.
All right, Devore, wrap us up with your number one.
So my number one for this movie,
Battle droids.
Hey, look. When Zeb said that the Hutts had hired the droid Gatra to like, I literally in my seat I was like, yes, like, oh my god, droid Gatra on screen. Like, I freaked out, and Meg had no idea why I was freaking out. I'm like, this is a big deal. I'll explain later. It's important. My actual number one best is the Grogu sequence. I think this is the best part of the movie for a couple of reasons. One is Din is unconscious, so he's not there, and like the movie gets better when he's not around.
Jeez.
So there's that. I love that it sort of plays that idea, like George had always talked about that thing of like Star Wars as sort of like a silent movie, and you could watch it like without the sound, and you sort of understand what's going on. Like I think that scene really kind of leans into that idea because there's literally like he's not talking. There's like there's a little bit of talking to him, but otherwise like everything that you're getting from the scene is what you're taking in terms of what's happening. Like nothing is being told to you. Everything is it's all being shown. And so I think it works that way. I love that the Yoda species are like beavers, and if you just leave them alone, they will just build huts. Like that's just like they just know that, like it's wired into their brains. Like if just left alone, they will start building the hut. It's just like it's evolutionarily like part of their DNA is hut building. I think is great. I love the weird guy who lives in the swamp. Like I love weird guys in Star Wars, and that guy.
Were we supposed to recognize that character design from something? Is that not like a Ralph McQuarrie drawing come to life, like this dragon snake thing was?
I also wonder that, and I do not know. I haven't investigated. I don't know if that's already an extant species somewhere in either canon or legends.
I've never seen,
or they just literally invented him for this movie.
Okay,
but I love him.
I got strong Sebulba vibes from him.
Oh,
but it wasn't.
It was giving wet Sebulba. I agree with that.
Okay, there's a phrase I didn't need to hear in my entire life. Thanks very much. I'm not sleeping well this evening.
But he's weird, and I love him. And sort of going back to what Brandon said for his number 2 in terms of just getting to see Grogu with some of that agency and like him like trying to collect all the stuff for the antidote to heal up Din and get to be a little bit more of his own character. I agree that like in terms of like the way that they've done Grogu, the decision to like make him a child who doesn't talk, who also doesn't age the way that like a human spanned being would, right? Like that has boxed them in like all different sorts of ways creatively, because it's like literally like are we gonna have to wait 20 years for him to be, I don't know, the equivalent of like a 7-year-old? Like there are definitely a lot of very real constraints, and I don't know how they're gonna get themselves out of it short of a giant time jump. But I think within those very narrow constraints that they have, I think they utilized him particularly well in that part of the movie. And so that's why it's my number 1 best.
I think the highlight of that sequence for me was the trying to fit Din into the hut.
Yes, he keeps pushing him back,
bumping his head. He's like, no, this will work if I give him a concussion. It'll be great. It'll be fine. He'll be fine.
And then he just like F it and puts brush over him. He's like,
it'll be fine.
I already built this. Yeah. Oh man. Well, guys,
this was wild. Like I'm glad you guys liked that sequence, because I was digging for what was going, like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we spending like actually 20 minutes? And it's probably a lot shorter than that. I can't wait to see like the minute by minute approach to this kind of thing, because I was so confused, like from the bumping of the head. And it's like literal days in the story, because he goes to sleep, he wakes up, he goes to sleep again, and wakes up. So you're telling me Din spent 3 days without food and like trying to like fit
the slowest poison of all time.
This is what I'm like. If that is the kill mechanism for this dragon snake that they have kept in there, like in the hut Rancor pit, like I don't understand what's going on, because even at least like Jabba had the Rancor, which would eat you in a moment, and he had the Sarlacc pit that would slowly digest you for 1,000 years. But the Hutt of the twins have decided somewhere in the middle, we want a monster that won't eat you, but will poison you over the span of 7 to 10 business days, I guess.
Oh man. Well,
like I said, this is definitely a movie I watched.
For sure. And it's definitely a movie we've talked about, so we can move on with our lives.
Yep, this is it.
All right, guys. Well, that'll wrap us up for this episode talking Mandalorian and Grogu. Let us know what you guys thought of the movie and what you thought of our thoughts, whether it's in the comments on the video or podcast feed. Email us clashingsabersnetwork@gmail.com, or connect with us across social media @clashing sabers, or our really cool Facebook group, Star Wars Clashing Sabers. So, but as many of you know, we are much more than just a podcast network here. Of course, we have so many great shows coming out, but really what we do here is we put Star Wars books into classrooms and libraries across the country. So if you have a classroom or library that you want to give books to, especially as we look towards the start of a new school year, go ahead and get those nominations in now so we can get those books to the teachers on time. We've got one box we'll be sending out come August, which I'm really looking forward to. Got it. And these are not small boxes. We're not sending 10 books. We're sending 100 books. I'm not exaggerating.
I love
Thanks to the generosity of our donors, we've been able to raise a good amount of funds to be able to do that. And we love to be able to support education and Star Wars. So if you want more about that or to support in another way, you can also go to our Patreon, patreon.com/clashing-sabers. And 100% of your donations are tax deductible and go purely to buying and shipping books. We don't cover hosting fees. We don't cover equipment fees. We handle that all ourselves. So make sure you do that. Drew, if people want to reach out to you, share their thoughts with you, or just tell you how interesting it was to have you back on the show, where can they meet you?
Best place is still on the Facebook group, Star Wars Clashing Sabers Star Wars. If you search for that, I'm sure you'll find us. I'm still haunting in these deep, dark corners of the internet. I guess that's deep and dark if it's on Facebook. I know I'm...
Yeah, at this point.
I don't know. I'm not on Blue Sky or any of the other social apps. So that's probably the best place to do it. Would love to have a conversation with anybody who wants to talk about any of it.
Sweet. And Devore, if people want to find you, how can they connect with you or listen to the other things you're working on?
All right. You can find me. I'm on Blue Sky at Demondum. You can also listen to me as a co-host over on Space Swifties, a Star Wars and Taylor Swift podcast that I host with my wife, the one and only Meg Dowell. Brandon was on the most recent episode. We talked about season 1 of Maul Shadow Lord, and that was a lot of fun.
So much fun. Loved it. Loved being on the show, and happy to come back whenever you guys will have me again, because nothing beats talking Star Wars except for talking Star Wars and Taylor Swift again.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
So, all right, guys, that'll wrap us up. I did want to mention before we close, though, it's really disappointing to have Drew back, have this big episode. And this movie has this potential, right? We all know the potential this movie had. And they didn't even give us a batch 8.
I hope.